This is the CreaseCast.
For some reason, I thought Edmonton was up 3-1 in this series.
Isn't it?
It's
2-1.
It's 2-1,
Yeah,
but for some reason, like, actually, I know the reason. Because everyone talked up their last win so much, like they were just like on the cusp of like going through to the next round. Like it was like, it's McDavid's series, he's going to the next round, he's playing out of his mind. And then it was like, so like I was convinced, like, oh, the series is over, like Calgary's on the ropes, and like they could be, in theory, if Marcus Sturm still plays like shit. But like in my head, I was like, oh, it's 3-1. Yeah, Calgary doesn't have a chance. And then, like, I checked the NHL the standings like before I came on the show, and I was like, wait, still like these haven't even like exchanged home dates yet. Like they haven't done like the back and forth yet. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Series isn't over yet. Shut the fuck up, Edmonton.
Yeah, that's what Oilers fans like jumping onto like one game, small sample size, being like, this is the year. I'm shocked. I'm shocked they're like that.
They lost 6-9. Do they not remember that?
No, they don't. They really don't.
It's pretty nice.
You know what also doesn't help is that game feels like it happened like 7 days ago.
That's true.
Oh God,
you know what I mean?
Like it feels like it's been a lifetime ago. Yeah.
I think it's because like there's such a polar difference. Oh yeah, first thing. Hi everyone, welcome to CreaseCast. We're just talking about random stuff here. Get ready for a playoff recap episode. Maybe it's just like me, but like I feel like the sweep that happened to Lachlan's poor Florida Panthers, like the speed with which that series was over made like the slowness that is Carolina, New York, and Edmonton, like all the other series, like it feels like they're just dragging in comparison.
I feel like the second round is always like that. Like I
think
that's
because their series is over. Like I joked when we finished recording our last episode on whatever it was, Thursday. Like, all right, man, I'll talk to you on Monday when LOL, their series might be over, haha. And then it was like, yeah, like the same thing with the Edmonton Calgary thing. I just see the standings like they haven't even done game 4 yet.
Yeah.
Like they're like Tampa's gonna be sitting for like a week, 10 days probably before they get another game in.
Because you know what, they've had such a hard like go of things over the last few years. They needed the extra break, you know. Like if anyone needed, you know, more time and had gone through more hardship than any other team, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. So
they've played so many postseason games.
Oh my God, it's so terrible.
Sad.
Oh no.
Someone think of the champions.
The children. They haven't seen their significant others.
Think about Pat Maroon, his record.
Yeah. Oh man, if Pat Maroon is on 4 straight cups, that is like the coolest thing imaginable.
Oh my God,
but that's wild.
It's hilarious.
I don't want to put.
Remember when he was an Oiler?
That's why they were struggling. You know, like obviously, Jamie, you're like a big Corey Perry fan, and I can't remember if we talked about this. Maybe we were doing our playoff predictions, but I still think it would be so funny if Tampa Bay gets to the finals and Corey Perry loses another cup final, like
the full Marian Hossa.
But instead of finally doing it, he's just like he closes his career with like back-to-back losses in the finals with different teams. Like that would be so funny.
Oh
like he goes to Calgary or whatever next year to try again, and then they lose. Like
it's almost like a kiss of death if he does it.
If he went to the Flames, I would just feel utter betrayal.
That's fair.
It's like got another Canuck gone. Like wait, no, Jamie, no,
no, not quite.
No, it's just my old man. It's just my old man.
Yeah, your old man.
Well, speaking of old man that couldn't do it, Joe Thornton slides into Game 4 after having played a single game. He might have played a game in like the first round. Lachlan,
I honestly don't think he did. Like I don't think he played a single game up to that point. And then for some, okay, Andrew Burnett had like for a guy who's probably gonna win the Jack Adams this year. I think he's a finalist. Is he not? Is he not?
Yeah, but he's
a nominee, but like
he's not gonna win.
He's not winning over. He's not winning over Sutter. There's no way.
I think he would, because you think about how they had to fire Quenneville like 3 weeks into the season, and then that team went on to win the President's Trophy. Like that's a Jack Adams Trophy sounding thing if I've ever heard one.
They were already on the trajectory to win the President's Trophy.
And they say nothing really changed when Burnett took over. So,
but like, again, to the people who vote on those, that's totally the type of thing that they do. Like, yeah, you could probably argue that there's some other ones out there that, like, yeah, maybe Sutter probably deserves to be there a little more. Who's the third one? There's one more. It might be Dean Epperson. Oh, Gallant. Yeah, Gallant maybe as well. Like, you could argue that
one team that got like outrageous goaltending.
Two teams that got outrageous goaltending, and then
Calgary. And then the Florida Panthers that have an absolute unit of a forward group.
Yeah.
So like,
which honestly would be the bet. Which would actually, to be fair, like here's the thing. I actually think that Brunette probably does deserve to win over the other two, because that's what the Jack Adams always turns into. It's whose goaltender suddenly turned really good for a season and then they won a bunch more games than expected. Like that's always how the Jack Adams gets voted on. It's always based on whose goaltender randomly went on a heater, right?
They should like split it where it's like there's a goalie coach of the year, so that they can discern between like a team that clearly just got by on goaltending and then a team like Tampa, who are once again very good despite getting older, slower, and shedding like 4 guys in their early 20s. You know what I mean? Like that would, like John Cooper. I don't want to steal someone else's point, but whatever that guy's name is on the Canucks Hour, Jamie Dodd. For the Canucks Hour with Thomas Strantz, he put it out that John Cooper should be one of those coaches that's just perennially nominated just based on their regular season success and postseason success.
Yes.
And so by that alone, like I would have to agree, like you just can't like not recognize what he's done. And yeah, Vasilevsky's like an elite goaltender, but like that team isn't like entirely dependent on their goaltending being elite, like say Gallant's New York Rangers are, or I mean, to a lesser extent, Markstrom with the Flames, but the Flames had really good underlying numbers with Sutter last year, even though their goaltending was a little shaky at best. So like split the award and call it like the Dominic Hasek Award for goaltending excellence, and it goes to the coach. So then,
but Ian Clark can only win so many times. Like he can't just win every year. That'd be unfair. Like
that. I don't know about that one, but
but think about but also
you know that Demko finished with like the 15th best saves percentage.
Burnt him out because Bruce Boudreau ran him into the ground. Like
I'm saying he was good, but he was still pretty average with the stats wise.
He would have been fine had they played him a normal regular amount and not been like, okay, we're gonna ride you for 20 straight games and hope that we make the playoffs.
Look, I know you're devastated by your precious Panthers losing in embarrassing fashion, but you don't need to take it out on your fellow co-host.
You're right, guys. I'm sorry. To get to my original point though, like with Andrew Brunette, like he had the weirdest game 4 ever, where
he sure did.
Where first he started by bringing in Thornton and I think it was Anton Lundell,
who's like a rookie,
came in for game 4, and the two guys he scratched were Anthony Duclair, which is a weird choice considering how well he had been playing. Unless he was injured, he
wasn't very good during the series.
Yeah, he didn't stick out, but like none of them really did.
No, yeah, I don't think he did anything even in the first round though.
No, I think he was quiet then too. Like
I think
they said he only had like an assist he had like 1 assist throughout. Like,
Duclair wasn't very good in any of the series.
He almost had that one goal that hit the netting or whatever right before, and nobody knew where it was. Like that almost went in. And then I forget who the other guy they scratched was, but it was 2 kind of like
Ryan Lomberg.
Ryan Lomberg, which like I mean, he's usually pretty like there was the one very bad gaffe in game 2, but he's supposed to be one of their better guys. Like so, it was kind of weird that they went in that direction and literally made themselves slower, in the process. And then you get into like that whole game where I'm like watching the Panthers, like their power play doing its work, and I'm just like, this is the worst power play I've ever seen.
It's not even a power play.
And then they moved Giroux off of the first one for some reason.
Yeah,
and
they got so many chances to like I get like literally I think I texted you Jamie posted like the me going okay bye Florida because there were the two called back goals, right? The first one which was funny. Off the netting, and then which they got like again I didn't think they were even going to get that.
8 minutes. It took 8 minutes for them.
Too long. It took way too long. That was the dumbest.
They should have just said it was a good goal because they knew honestly, they were going to lose anyway. Like get it out of the way.
Yeah, honestly, like they should have, especially like, and again, like I talked about in the group chat, like where it's like, it's so weird that like tennis, they can literally pinpoint exactly where the ball landed on white chalk. But for some reason, we can't tell you where the puck happens to be in any given moment.
Or like in football, they have a technology that like places the yard line underneath a bunch of dynamic players and referees and all sorts of shit. And it's like seamless, and they've had that since like the 90s, but they don't have the technology to say whether a piece of plastic clearly hits a piece of mesh or goes outside of the player area. Yeah, like at the playing surface. Like it's
we're so advanced. Guys.
I can literally
the
track.
NHL is so advanced.
They literally put like there's the whole thing where it's like they put like tracking chips in those pucks, but guess what? It's for face-offs. It's for who's going to win the face-off, guys. That's what we need to be tracking here.
And probably goals. I think maybe
they do use it for like shot power and everything as well. Like you can see how hard the shot was and everything. But again, it's so weird. That's like, okay, you can clearly tell us where the freaking puck is. Like if it hit the damn netting, if you wanted, like VAR exists, you could do that.
You could just like see how far high up it went.
Yeah. And then with at the very least, right? Like if you have like the 3D model kind of thing that they use for that kind of stuff, you can at least be like, oh, hey, look, it goes up above the glass, takes a sudden weird ricochet, and then just dies. Like, what do we think that hit? Like, it's clearly a ghost goal. Like, it's like that's and yeah, like so you have that, and then you got the whole like the playing the puck with his hand thing right to Kucherov, that goal counting. And I was literally
at that point, weren't they just like toying with them? They're like, we're intentionally not going to score some goals just to give you false hope, and then we're gonna score the most bogus, like weird deflection goal of all time.
Yeah.
What a goal!
What a goal! And it was so funny because I was literally after that second goal got waved off. Okay, I was like literally like, okay, Florida, if you don't score the next goal, I give up. You're done. Like you're not winning. Like you have to score after you get 2 lucky breaks on the freaking video review in a row. And sure enough, Bobrovsky gets a weird handle on it, goes through his legs and in. Like, all right, game over.
They scored 1 power play goal in the entire playoffs.
Oh yeah,
that's it on like 29 opportunities.
3.6%.
Oh.
vomit inducing. Like
I don't know what their power play percentage was in the regular season though. Like
I think it was really good. I think he was really good.
I wonder like if it was one of those things where like their power play say was like outrageously high. It was operating at 38% and then it regressed like super hard, like to the like extreme in the other direction, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because one thing, if it's like the league's best, but it's still only like 20%, then it's like, okay, that seems pretty normal.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but if I remember correctly, like they were in like that top tier, but they weren't like number 1. I think there were a few teams ahead of them. So
the Leafs were number 1, weren't they?
That sounds about right.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing with the Panthers, like if I like from judging by what happened there, and what you were seeing particularly in those last 2 games in Tampa from the power play unit, it looked a lot like they had their confidence shaken on the man advantage in the first couple of games against the Capitals. And then it just lingered rather than like a case of like, oh, they got found out, like their power play got found out. It just felt like it was, oh, this team got rattled by a couple bad games, by like a game or 2 of just bad power play, and just never fully recovered. Because I'm watching that thing and I'm like, this team scored a bunch of goals during scored the most goals I think of any team during the regular season, and they're playing this like weirdly stationary like power play where they're not even moving, like they are not leaving their posts like at all. Like they are just like, okay, pass it around in the umbrella and then hope it goes in. And I'm just like, oh, the like thinking back to like all the Canucks weird power plays that they've had over the last few years, and just like, I mean, the Canucks looks more dynamic than this. Like they were moving at least slightly and changing like zones, and it worked the one time against the Lightning when they actually started like swapping around and moving where they were standing. But they kept trying the standstill thing, and hey, lo and behold, the team that's good at blocking shots kept blocking the stationary shots, knowing exactly where it was coming. It was
no one could have seen this coming.
No one could have seen this coming. Tampa's the same way too, like in a way where it's like, but like what's different with the Lightning, and it's so aggravating, is that there's nothing like particularly revolutionary about what the Lightning do and like the way that their style of play. They're just so unbelievably good that even if you know exactly what they're going to do, there is nothing you can do to stop them. Like there's nothing. It was funny because I could telegraph exactly like a couple of the plays where they scored on. Like I knew exactly where the puck was going to go, who was going to take the shot, what they were waiting for in that lane. And they do it every time. But they're just so good that like there's nothing any team can do about it. They can go and have 10 shots in the first 2 periods and nearly score twice in that time. Like that's just Tampa.
Yeah, they're kind of good.
They're kind of good. And I bought a bunch of squeaky rats that I don't know what to do with anymore.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Did you jinx them, man?
I didn't jinx them. Look, they were cooked. Like they jinxed themselves.
When did you buy those?
Ooh,
I bought those after game 2, which in my opinion was the one that sealed their doom.
Like that game 2 against Tampa, or
game 2 against Tampa. That sealed their doom because they were.
You totally jinxed them.
I didn't jinx them, bro. You know who jinxed them is goddamn Ryan Lomberg and Mackenzie Weegar for letting up with like a second to go in a tie game.
But they can't jinx a team when they're a part of the team. That's not how it works. Trust me, I would know. I played on some very bad teams before. And it didn't matter what kind of juju you got in the world. You just lost because your team was bad. And nothing you could do would ever change it.
I forgot about your stint on the Toronto Maple Leafs, Cody.
Hey, they haven't hired me yet.
Not yet. But yeah, look at this. The Cats, they lost.
Wait, did you write Cats on it, or did
I sure did?
Oh yeah, you absolutely jinxed them.
He jinxed them.
Yeah, I
jinxed them. Send all the Panther fans to
all 10 of them. All 10 of them. What are they gonna do? Angrily send me an angry letter?
When those Floridians put down their bath salts and pick up their phones, they're gonna be so mad at you for what you did to their team.
You were lucky this was just a warning, alligator. The last one won't be the
next one won't be corked. That's true. You should think about this.
This is an alligator. I just find an alligator in my room in my house. I'm like, oh dang, they got me.
So speaking of jinxes, the Avalanche and the Blues. I'm gonna try to not make any declarative statements because the last time I did about the Avalanche, they screwed around and lost 3 straight and got bounced from playoffs. So I'm not going to be saying anything crazy.
You better know.
Like they're, gonna just sweep their way to the finals. They might though, because that game against St. Louis was kind of a blowout. I'm just putting it out there. Like that wasn't even close. That was like an NHL team beating up on like an AHL team that was just full of goons. Like even
just
though
a bunch of angry men.
Yeah, like that was just like a bunch of middle-aged white dudes. Like, but instead of like venting their frustrations with life on Twitter, like they went to a beer league, sports league, and just beat the shit out of like anyone they could. Okay, and in this case, it was Nazem Kadri who said like fucking try me, bitch, and like absolutely sunned them about as hard as you could.
That was fantastic. Like that
was great.
Whole sequence of
he's an absolute boss.
Oh yeah, like, and
he's amazing. I love Nazem Kadri.
Same here. And like, look, and there are people talking about like the Daniel Sedin Nazem Kadri incident from a few years ago. Yeah, I didn't like him at that point, but like as considering like what he's been through and like all the stuff that he has to go through on a daily basis from terrible people is like and that in itself is impressive and amazing. And to see him like, okay, so I guess we haven't talked since that game 3. I think I don't know if you guys disagree, but that like the collision itself was not his fault, like for starters. Like it just wasn't.
I'm not going to lie to you. I think I fell asleep at 8 o'clock on that game night. And so I woke up like the next day and I knew that Binnington was out with injury. I had no idea what happened. I just knew everyone was pissed off at Nazem Kadri. And in my head, I was like, yeah, that tracks. I don't know what happened. I'm not going to investigate what happened. But I'm sure people are very mad at him for whatever it was he did or did not do. So please do describe this hit and whether or not I should be angry about it.
So what happened on the play was, I forget who the Blues defenseman is with him, but essentially Kadri's going for a loose puck in front of Binnington. Binnington is coming out to challenge. The Blues defenseman cuts in between him. So if I'm Binnington here, the Blues defenseman cuts like essentially right into like his gut, like going into like the left essentially, and knocks Kadri's feet, kind of like knocks Kadri's feet out from underneath him as well as his own feet. And they both go crashing right into Jordan Binnington. And like, so it's like, and yeah, it was
kind of like accidental, like not necessarily like I'm just going to try and run the goalie. Like we saw,
no.
Like because there was I can't remember who. I think it was on Bobrovsky or no, I'm an idiot. Different team wearing red. This was Lucic running Markstrom, where it was just like
Smith,
a dude just like or Smith, where it's just like a dude like charging as hard as he could towards the end boards and not even attempting to like get out of the way, but just like pull the guy over.
We have a different opinion on that one. I guess we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But so it was clearly like there was not like people are like, oh, Kadri could have stopped. So it's like, no, his feet were already sliding out from underneath him by the time like they both run into Binnington. And it's like, yeah, maybe you could make the argument that he's going a little bit too quickly at this loose puck. But again, it's a loose puck. Play is alive. Like you're going to make every single attempt as a player to get it, to get the puck and to crawl possession. And so, yeah, they both go into the goalie. Like Binnington's clearly injured, and then like he tries to play, and then you see him like I think his like leg buckled from underneath him as he's trying to like do his warm up with the coach, and you're like, oh, he's done. Like right then and there, it's like, okay, well this is not going well for him. And then so like that was that. Obviously, every Blues fan's gonna get mad about that as it is called Kadri dirty. Same old. Certainly. And then you watch the interview of him on TNT after the game, of Kadri after the game, where during this interview, literally Jordan Binnington chucks a water bottle at him from across the room and then leaves. And like
very mature thing to do.
Very, very mature. Like, God, I was talking to Jamie about this before the show about like how I've noticed my own fan part coming out of me a little bit too often lately. And I gotta curb that as a media person, but good Lord, I'm watching that. I'm like, I see that. I'm just like, good Lord, it's a freaking toddler. Like there is an NHL goaltender who is actively a toddler. Like, Jesus, like throwing his bottle.
He got run into, and so he had to teach him a lesson by throwing his bottle at him,
and then running away like a coward.
Well, maybe he had to catch a bus. You don't know. Don't be so judgmental.
Oh yeah.
When has Jordan Binnington ever done something wrong?
Oh,
you want a list, bro?
Yeah.
Well, look at his Twitter.
We don't have a half an hour.
You mean all the ones he deleted?
Yeah, he deleted so many last night.
So funny.
Did you see like?
Oh my God!
So, friend of the show, Jackson McDonald from Roxy Fever, was like going through and like retweeting like all his old stuff from like 2011 and 2013. And I think what happened was Binnington started seeing like all these old ass tweets getting retweeted, and he started deleting the ones that Jackson was actually retweeting. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure he in part like caused Binnington to start going through his feed to delete stuff. It's so funny.
I think it like so. I think because like he was already deleting the ones that were clearly, blatantly just racist and like or misogynistic, and then Jackson was retweeting the ones that are just
like
stupid.
Even the stupid ones too,
like the purely
the
stupid
backpack
ones
or whatever. I can't remember what it was. Like I got pee on my backpack or whatever.
Yeah,
something really stupid. It's just like, why would you tweet
something
this?
that like a high schooler thinks is really funny and really
he
like
also
woke.
took a picture of his feet after a hike or something. And I was just innocently scrolling through my feed and I saw those dogs and I was like, good Lord.
Whom amongst us hasn't decided to tweet a picture of their sweaty, nasty ass feet?
They were covered in dirt. They were gross. They were disgusting. And I was like, whose feet are these? It was Binnington's.
Hell yeah.
Horrible.
I love that. Good for him.
Horrible.
Yeah. This is obviously he posted that picture before WikiFeed existed.
Maybe he was trying to get on WikiFeed.
That's a mistake no one would make anymore. Maybe, but God, no one would make that mistake anymore, and everyone is just like, nope, not posting a single photo like that anymore, because we're all too aware of the internet. Jordan Binnington, it's not apparently, and it's very funny. And then, but of course, it just it's one of those things. Okay, I'm not blaming Binnington for what the Blues fans were doing on their own social media, but it's it was one of those things where it's hey, look, our goaltender is going out of his way to be an asshole to Nazem Kadri. That means we can too. It's literally one of those things where it's he could have very easily been hey, taken the high road, not done anything, and then later been hey, this is not okay. Fans shouldn't do this. Please stop. Nope. He decided to literally just basically start it off by I'm just going to throw a water bottle and basically imply that it's fine to do whatever you want to Nazem Kadri.
He was then validated by the head coach who took a very meek and unimpressive stance on the racism being subjected towards Nazem Kadri over the past couple days since the Binnington run-in. What did Berube say? No comment. That's all he could muster when asked about the racism he was facing. What a fucking bitch.
Which is, you know what? I'm not gonna swear, but I will say it's very interesting. Yeah, exactly. You're like my anger translator. It's very interesting how Craig Berube said no comment when there's evidence of the one time he did make a comment on something like that. It got him suspended for using a racial slur against Peter Worrell in a game back when he was a player. So it's quite literally, it's a full example of, but if I admit what these people did was wrong, then I have to admit that what I did was wrong, and I don't want to face my own consequences. So it's it's that in a nutshell, and that's one of the main issues that hockey culture is facing these days is literally how many people have skeletons in the closet like that who don't want to admit what they did themselves was terrible.
Pretty much. And honestly, even if Berube came out and be yeah, what he's going through isn't acceptable. I know I said some things that were unacceptable back in my time, and I look back and I think, wow, what a fucking idiot I was. But yeah. I hate to see that happening to any player. I would hate to see that happen to any of my players on my team. That's a 5-sentence, 2-sentence thing. The easiest
softball
thing
over the plate.
You come out with a statement. That's all you got to do, and then you go away.
And then you let David Perron go out there and start just trying to injure people.
He
straight up trying to murder him.
Literally after Nas scored a goal, he tried to elbow him in the face.
Yep.
Are you joking?
That's what I was shocked about this morning was when, I wasn't shocked. Let's be clear.
I
wasn't shocked. I was kind of just that tracks. Was him getting a $5,000 suspension for the hit from behind, but there was nothing for the attempted decapitation. Because
but Cody, he didn't do anything. We can't suspend him for something he didn't do.
But it's the intent.
Yeah, bingo.
Intent to injure only counts when your intent to injure actually injures them.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Are you
it makes
joking
no
right
sense.
Now?
It's no. George Peros is just this entire offseason has been a complete like a legacy of failure.
Yeah.
And like I find it funny because like I just don't think you should have like former goon as the guy who should be an assessor of punishment for doing stupid, dangerous shit like this. So I think it's great. I think it's going to be great when like a new guy comes in, like when Paul Correa becomes the DOPS head and like actually levy suspensions instead of $5,000 fines for all of these infractions. Like, is he like on vacation and it's like he has the autoresponder on his email that just says like someone sends him a thing like here's all the footage to X person's high sticking double major and just auto responds, please assess this person a $5,000 fine and tweet about it. And that's it. And then he's out hawking his Violent Gentleman merch or some shit.
Yeah. And not to go back to like the Tampa, Florida series, but there was the one in game.
They lost, Lachlan. Get over it.
It was where like Hoggle hit. How dare you? Or was it Brandon Hoggle hit? I forget exactly who it was.
Hoggle,
like Hagel, like a bagel, bro.
Like a bagel.
Whatever.
Hagel.
Whatever. It like hits him like hits the Panther from the goal line like into the post, and that ended up being a $5,000 fine. And it was one of those like. I'm sorry, that's literally the most predatory hit you can make. He hit him right in the numbers, away just a distance away from the boards where he could have ran his head into the thing. How is that not a suspension? Like, what are
$5,000? I don't want to deal with the backlash. I'm on vacation.
Yeah, and guys, like, but also we have to think about guys. If I try to commit a robbery, but I fail at it, I don't get. Does that mean I have to go to jail for attempted robbery? No, of course not. That's not how that works.
Well, you would. Attempted robberies. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'd still go to jail.
No, that's not how that works. You totally they just let you go scot-free. They're just like, oh, don't try that again, you silly. Like
that's fair.
Yeah.
This series became instantly like not fun. Like over the last two games. Like I think the first game was like pretty intense. The second game too, like the comeback or the Blues winning was actually like really impressive too. David Perron has his hat trick and still has like fans on his side. And then the last two games just brought out the ugliness that we acknowledge exists in hockey fandom. It's just like the dumb white macho bro mentality that comes out when, God forbid, someone hurts my favorite player.
Yeah.
Like, and if Jordan Binnington is your favorite player and he gets injured, then I have questions, sir and or madam, frankly. But yeah, this series, I hope, like I picked the Blues to win in 6 because I still don't have faith in the Avalanche goaltending at all. Like that game was like a blowout for Colorado, like they dominated, but at the end of the day, Darcy Kemper still gave up like 3 goals on 13 shots or something like that. Like that's not good for a team that is like expected to go to the finals. Like you look at, say, the Florida Panthers, right? I'm sorry to do this to you, Lachlan, but the Florida Panthers, absolute powerhouse offensively, got goalied in a bad way, just completely shut down. And guess what? The Avs aren't even remotely in the same stratosphere in terms of goaltending or defense when it comes to a Tampa matchup potentially. And like it's just going to be like the quickest route to the final, or like the quickest out for them if Darcy Kemper can't stop a puck, because giving up 3 on 13 to St. Louis is not a good look for any goaltender. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I still have my doubts, but
he was doing fine up until I think like even like the game they lost. I think he was pretty good in those games. I think it was the last one where he just kind of had a bit of a struggle there. And there were, I think, to be fair as well, like a few of their I think most of the Blues goals are power play goals, unless I'm mistaken, because Perron's gotten a lot on the power play, right?
Two of them 2 for 2. They're very bad at the PK. They need to stay.
Well,
the ball.
And it's not gonna get better because Sam Girard's out for the playoffs now.
He doesn't
and
kill
like
penalties.
Having him available like just to play at even strength, right? Like that. Now you're having guys who have to double shift on both, and they're getting their minutes bumped up a bunch, right?
Yeah.
So like having it's not gonna get any easier for your PK because you're gonna lose more and more bodies. Like that's just how it goes during the playoffs. So yeah, they got to figure it out somewhere here. Also, like that injury within itself, like the Gerard injury, got kind of brushed under the table with all the Binnington stuff, because that is still a crushing blow for Colorado. Like,
I think a lot of people too are distracted by the fact that Colorado is kind of like handing it to the Blues, that they're just like they kind of forgot, or they're just like, well, it doesn't matter, they're still blowing them out. There wasn't really a noticeable loss or drop in their ability to just rout opponents. So maybe they'll think about it next round with whoever they play out of the Battle of Alberta. That's really hard to say with Invisalign retainers. Let me tell you.
Battle of Alberta.
Battle of Alberta. Like, my tongue is getting stuck on the roof of my mouth.
Yeah, they're gonna get Mike Smith, future Conn Smythe winner, Mike Smith.
Yeah, 70-year-old Mike Smith is going to rally his team to beat Calgary to face Colorado. Like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it seems like it's going. I mean, like, it's kind of weird that the Battle of Alberta almost became like very quickly became like the third most important series out of the bunch, as the Rangers score to make it 3-0 or now.
Yeah, 0 shots last power play too. That's cool. So yeah, let's quickly go over New York and Carolina, because I don't have anything to say about the series. I have not watched a single game.
That makes sense. Like,
that's actually kind of how I've been for most of Carol. Like, I don't think I watched much of Carolina and Boston either. I think I watched Game 7, and that was it.
Painful to watch.
Yeah, like they're usually a fun team to watch in the regular season, but like we've talked about this a million times on the show, so we're not going to waste viewers or listeners' times. Don't like a lot of their acquisitions. I don't like betting cheap on a bunch of bad people like Domi or D'Angelo. Like, that doesn't do anything for me. Yeah. So it's hard to root for them. And Ethan Bear isn't playing any of the games of the playoffs either.
Rude.
So it's like,
I think that's rude.
Yeah, like, that's just not cool at all. So like, yeah, I don't care, but like, yeah,
it's painful to watch them.
Yeah.
Like, and they suck.
And New York too is like, they're just being carried so hard by their goalies that it's just like, it's hard to even be like to root for them to win too, because you're just like, you're rooting for them to go try and play trap hockey against like Tampa right now, which like, I don't ever want to root for that. Like, that's why last year we were like, we don't ever want to root for the Islanders to go through, because we don't want to see like boring, dull hockey. And I think that's what we're going to get with kind of either of these teams at this point.
Really? Yeah.
Well, like, it just feels like that, because Carolina was very like high tempo, a lot of action, like a lot of like 5-goal games, comeback efforts like that were through the roof. And now they're trying to emulate like Tampa Bay's like really grindy playoff model of hockey, which is good. Like, you need to be able to play that way to succeed, but it's been such a drag.
They really only play like that on away
on the road. I was gonna say like that.
They don't play like that at home.
Yeah, it's almost like they changed their strategy completely based on like you know how everyone's like oh, they're this. Yeah, or
it's like a wrestling, like a WWE show. Like, depending on the crowd, they'll have like a local guy in the main event to get everyone jacked up. So there's the same way. They're like, hey, let's maybe not like block shots. Let's just really try to score like a lot.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Just took a penalty.
They're like, it's one of those like, they're like, hey guys, after the pandemic, we really need home revenue, so please send every game to 7, every series to 7.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
They'll make it all the way to the finals at this rate with that mentality.
Yeah, because like it is like the whole thing of like, you know how like people are always saying like, oh, this so and so team played the perfect road game, where they're like trying to just, it's almost like the Hurricanes are like trying to do like this, oh, we're gonna play the perfect road game type of thing, where they change their strategy completely, but it doesn't work. Like, it's so weird how different they are when it's literally the only difference is what that they don't have on the ice, at least, is that they don't have like last change. Like, weird.
So they weren't like this last year. I don't know what's wrong with them.
Yeah, it's really weird, and I have no idea. It's not.
They're just boring. Straight up. New York, like, the only upside to cheering for a New York victory is that Tyler Mott is on their team again. Like, he's off of injury.
Yes.
So it's like if they go through, like, Canucks fans at least have something to hold on to. That's kind of like the Calgary thing too. Like, you're at least rooting for Tanev and Markstrom, or Toffoli to like do something together. Like you're rooting for Tyler Mott to, have a good run and prove he was worth that precious 4th round pick or whatever.
I can't believe
whatever garbage pick it was.
4th round pick for Tyler Mott.
Well, I mean,
that was what the market was. That was
not
that
good. That's the
insult.
He wasn't as good. He wasn't as good as Nick Paul or Brandon Hagel. So naturally,
they weren't.
Brandon Huggle.
He didn't get traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning, so
that's true.
I'm sure he would have played like them if he got traded to the Tampa.
Honestly, Tyler Mott probably would have been a good fit for the Lightning. Like, honestly, like the way that Tyler Mott plays, honestly, like they would have loved him on Tampa. Like he would. They would have,
but they probably that's why they went for Nick Paul and Brandon Hagel is because they had 2 years on their deal, so they could at least get a second kick at the can. They're not really the types to trade for people that they only have like 1 year or like a 1 playoff run in. That's why their off seasons are always like, we're going to get Pierre-Edouard Bellemare and Corey Perry on league minimum deals for 2 years. Like then we can like at least spread out the wealth and try and make something happen. At least not with this year, but the next year after we'll still have the same kind of value deals to work with. And so like Tyler Mott, man, Canucks should have just like extended him or something, given him like a 2-year contract at really cheap, but like, hey, buddy, we'll get you to a cup contender.
I don't think he would have taken like,
he wanted too much money. Like, yeah, exactly. I was like, I love Tyler Mott, but the amount of money that it sounded like he sounds like he wants in free agency, it's too rich. Like I'm just, it's like
he's gonna
might be because of the Dickinson one, So
yeah, that contract definitely screwed him. But like kudos to Tyler Mott. He's going to enjoy his like $4 million contract in Winnipeg or wherever.
Philly.
Don't banish him to Winnipeg.
I'm not banishing him. I'm just saying.
I would love him. Honestly, I like the Jets. I wouldn't mind him on Winnipeg. Like
I don't like them anymore.
The Jets.
You don't? You don't like the Jets anymore?
No, I just don't like Blake Wheeler.
I got beef.
I don't like him as a captain. I think he runs a very toxic locker room. Ooh. Judging by just like how many players have left and been like, yeah, it was a fucking disaster of a locker room and chemistry was terrible.
Yeah.
So like weird. A part of me is just kind of like, and I think his contract's horrible. It's going to age terribly. So a part of me is just like, man, you're making that much money and you're just like an asshole to like Patrick Laine to the point that he gets traded for nothing. Like, really? Was that worth it?
Yeah. But they got Pierre-Luc Dubois out of it. Like
score.
I don't think he's going back.
I know.
He's not going back.
Even though his dad's like a part of the organization, like I just don't think he's going to stick around. But like,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I just they need to move on from him or Scheifele or whatever and build around Kyle Connor and Nick Ehlers. Like they need to so badly, but I don't know if they will.
Nikolai Ehlers is one of the I tried my best not to harp on to go off on but the Canucks could have had so and so guy.
But they could have had that guy.
Nikolai Ehlers.
Pasta.
They could have had. I mean, they got Brock. I'm not that it sucks. Like Pasta would have been great, but I'm not losing that much sleep over that one as I am over the Canucks could have had goddamn Nikolai Ehlers or William Nylander.
I would have loved Willie.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
And he probably wouldn't be making as much as he is right now, though.
That's true.
Honestly, you know what happened though? They would have done exactly what they did with Brock as they did with Willie Nylander, where they bridged him for 3 years, probably at the same $6.9 million. And then at the end of his deal, they would have been fucked because they signed Beagle and Roussel and whoever to a $20 million cap hit combined. And then they've been screwed like they are with Brock right now and his $7.5 million qualifying offer. It just would have happened anyway. It would have just happened to a better player.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. God, if that isn't that's pretty darn true.
We'd have multiple Brocks.
Okay. One last series to cover. Battle of Alberta, which is going to happen pretty much right after we finish recording here. What are we thinking? The vibes are leaning pretty bad towards Calgary just because Chris Tanev's not in the lineup. And apparently Chris Tanev was the glue holding together that organization because they played very badly without him.
Yeah. It's been
Damn.
like I like their defense
Looks
is
like that
supposed
he's
to be
needed.
yeah, seriously. It's like it's one of those things where it's like I think he's the only significant defenseman out of their lineup right now if I'm unless I'm missing
I'm
something.
pretty sure.
And they have looked atrocious in the 3 games against Edmonton. And it's like there's nothing about Calgary's like the way that they're built that Edmonton should be able to exploit that easily. Like, yeah, I get Connor McDavid's a cheat code and everything, but he's still only on the ice for at most a third of the game. So there's still 2/3 where he's not on the ice. And somehow it doesn't matter. Like they look completely unraveled. I think like in the game 3, they didn't even look like they wanted to win. Like they kind of like they straight up looked like they were like, yeah, we don't care. We're going to lose, whatever. Like they didn't care. There was no care in there at all.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre series because like the first game naturally starts with the 6-9 game and you're like, "Oh fuck, this series is going to be a banger." And then like each game after was just kind of like, "Oh,
significantly less fun."
Right.
I hope tonight's a banger.
This is just like every media person talking about Connor McDavid, and this podcast and our listeners know how much I don't care for Connor McDavid. So every passing game for me is just like complete torture where I'm just like, I don't fucking care. I don't care. I need Calgary to play well and get the crap Oilers out of there. Sick of it. I don't want to hear about how Connor McDavid is, going to win the cup this year because he had a 4-point night. I don't care. He had a 4.9 game 1. They lost because the team sucks. What do they get out of him going to the next round? Nothing.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
And like there's unlikable parts about all of this where it's just like not only with Calgary, like with Calgary, it's like the whole this team is so like people getting way too overhyped about the Calgary Flames like they always do. With Edmonton, it's like, oh, you know what's great, guys, the redemption arc of Evander Kane, and I'm just like, oh my god, no, absolutely not. Like I don't care if he scores a hat trick in a game. This is not a redeemable character in my eyes and most people's eyes. Like to the point where people are already like, the Canucks should have gone and signed Evander Kane. It's like, no, they really shouldn't have. Like, I don't care how many goals he scores. I don't want him here. Like, really bad.
That was genuinely like so speaking like same as the Blues AB series becoming really ugly and kind of not fun. It's the same thing with Flames Oilers where it's like the storylines are either, how bad Jacob Markstrom's doing and then having to relitigate the Jim Benning era every single day on Twitter, or, Chris Tanev leaving and having to relitigate the entire Benning era over the 2020 offseason again, or Evander Kane having a redemption arc because he played
goals make
tough.
up for doing really terrible things off of the ice, as
like,
we all know.
Yeah, like there's just some tweets out there where you just like you roll your eyes at and you're like, man, how do you wake up and dress yourself properly if you actually think like Evander Kane like scoring 3 points in 10 games somehow like absolves him for the shit he did like this season alone as a person, let alone a player.
Yeah.
It's like there's
wild.
People talking about like how like it doesn't change who he is even though he's playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And like there are people that are just like attacking the people that are saying that sort of stuff and that calling them like they're racist for saying that about him, but like it has nothing to do with his race.
Like shout out to the broadcast Mallory McFall for her very fucking funny tweet about Evander Kane hat trick being like losing a bet, hitting his wife, and then doing something else. Like it's not 3 goals. This is what his hat trick is.
That's dark.
And everyone was like, "You wouldn't joke about this if he was white." It's like, yeah,
no,
we would.
Definitely would. No,
you absolutely would, because
it's
pointing out how much of a shit person the guy is outside of hockey and why the Oilers were rightfully decried for signing him in the
why
first place.
Why do people think that everyone's making fun of Jordan Binnington for? Like, literally, there's a reason not a lot of people like him, and it's because he's done stupid stuff. It's not because of like anything else. Like, that's literally like it's so dumb. And yeah, like it's the whole Evander Kane thing. It's just like, oh god, like you don't want to like. It's one of those like you don't want to see success come that he doesn't deserve it. Like, it's one of those just like you don't deserve the success you're having right now. Like, yeah, sure, good for you. You're scoring goals. That's awesome. What about all the other things you should be worrying about with your daily life? Like,
so on top of the Evander Kane redemption arc that has been started by the national media, months after saying they wanted to do better, one of the funniest fucking things that came out of the Oilers' like first win was Frank Saravalli tweeting out an article at 3:30 in the morning about Duncan Keith and how he's worth every penny.
No. Our coworker Frank Saravalli.
This postseason has been just like a bevy, a buffet of comedy for white aging media personalities. Like,
it's everyone showing their ass.
Everyone's showing their ass. Everyone embarrassing themselves with terrible takes and terrible opinions on Nazem Kadri or Evander Kane or whatever. And it just doesn't seem to stop. And it keeps getting funnier and more embarrassing as the playoffs go on. So I'm a big fan of these playoffs for that alone. But like, man, like I'm fully expecting, the articles to come out next round. Like, ooh, you know what the Avs really needed? They needed Semyon Varlamov back.
Oh no!
Just ignore all the stuff that he's got going on in his personal life. They would have beat X person in the Western Conference Final if they just had Semyon. You know what I mean?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't at one point the Calgary like exploring the idea of like signing Slava Voinov at one point? Wasn't that a thing? Or was that Montreal?
I think it was Montreal. I think because Montreal was like they went from trying to sign Slava Voinov to then doing the whole that guy they drafted.
Yeah, you're right. That was within that same kind of weird window.
And then also, I think after they drafted that kid, it was also rumored they were trying to sign Tony DeAngelo as well.
That's right. Mark
like it was
just last stand. Like, good lord.
Just fucking rolling out the best ideas back to back to back. So
yeah. I did want to. So there was one thing about like there was another like this is a much lighter side, just on the hockey side of things, like of like bad takes I've seen. Like, so everyone has like been jumping on Jacob Markstrom and like he hasn't been good. Like there's no way around it. He hasn't been good. But I've seen a lot of. Yeah, but we know why. But like a lot of people seem to be of this mindset. Like, and I've talked about this before, where it's like, well, you know what the problem is? It's because Ian Clark's not coaching him anymore. That's why he's bad now. And it's like, and that always like weird. I always find that like a really weird way that people look at it. Because like if Ian Clark, and I'm sure he'd tell you the same thing, where it's like, what makes Ian Clark a good coach is that his coaching sticks. Like it's not, you're not a good goalie coach if the second that guy stops working with you, the numbers take a huge nosedive, right? Like you're coaching, what you're telling them and what you're instilling in them in their strategy and their play stays long after you've stopped working with them. So it's been really weird seeing a lot of people being like, well, this is what happens when you take Markstrom away from Vancouver. Clearly the Canucks were right to pick Demko. And it's like, okay, that's like, they're kind of completely separate things. Like you can just be one or the other. Guy who played really well during the regular season, might I remind everybody, like
earned a Vezina nomination.
Yeah, like, bingo.
He was not bad. He was very good.
Him having a couple bad games against the Oilers is not exhibit A of why the Canucks should have kept Demko over him. Yeah. Demko can be good on his own, and Markstrom can also be good on his own. Those can be two completely separate things. Like we don't have to do the whole who would you have picked? Like we don't need to do this.
Yeah, I think I tweeted about that too because I saw that one guy's tweet where he was like Demko is the real Vezina caliber goaltender, and it's like, did you
No.
watch the regular season? Like,
Yeah.
the Calgary Flames were a good
the
team.
Nominations?
Yeah, but Jacob Markstrom still posted incredible numbers
Yeah.
behind like Eric Goodbranson had like a really good season, but that's still who Jacob Markstrom's playing behind, and Goodbranson still has his flaws. Like
Eric Goodbranson got walked by Connor McDavid no less than like 4 times.
Yeah, like he's still like the Flames still have rough defensive moments too. Like the Vancouver Canucks aren't like on an island where it's like Demko is literally like holding the team in games. Like these games occur to other teams as well, including the Calgary Flames. Like it's like 2 things can happen at the same time and it'd be okay. But the guy who legitimately earned a Vezina nomination this season isn't not worthy of his award. No. And Demko isn't worthy of the Vezina nomination either.
I mean, I think he would have had they played him a little less, but like that's the
the
reality. I mean, he was again like it was really like you noticed it when he started to get fatigued and injured. You started seeing him make the mistakes that he wasn't making during the first half of the year when he was just on it the whole time. And it was like, but like at the end of the day, it was like, yeah, Markstrom's the one with the Vezina nomination right now.
And you know why? Do you know why, Lachlan?
Because he's good.
He played 1 less game than Demko and had a save percentage that was like 0.3% better.
Yeah.
And a goals against average that was like 0.4 goals less per 60 minutes. Like it was very good. And Demko is going to get there eventually, but it's insane to like somehow be like, yeah, Markstrom wasn't good this year, but my favorite goaltender was. No, like y'all need to stop huffing
They were
paint.
both good.
And just acknowledge they were both good, and one just happened to be better playing for a better team. Shit happens all the time in the NHL.
Shit happens all the time.
Like I was losing my mind to some of the takes too, where they're just like, this is why you had to get rid of Markstrom because he sucks in playoffs right now. It's like
literally in a second round, and we're not.
It's a second round, man. And like, he's
playoffs, bro. Come on.
To Lachlan's point, where it was like, Demko played really like great this season. Like he played like amazingly behind a dog shit team, and they still didn't get anywhere close. Yeah. And he broke down before they could finally cross the finish line. Yeah. Markstrom played like 1 less game or 1 more game or whatever, and got his team across the hump into the second round, and he's fallen apart because he was overplayed. So like, were we gonna applaud the Canucks for becoming the second wild card spot and then subjecting Spencer Martin to 4 games against the Abs as the second wild card team? Like, the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah, no, it would have been like poor Spencer Martin's good. He would have had a very hard time against Colorado, and we
would have taken them to overtime, but we would still get swept.
Yeah, that isn't true. Yes, he would have taken every single game to OT.
No, just one.
Just one.
Just one.
This is my hot take. I think Spencer Martin's going to last like 15 games in the NHL, and he's going to be back in the AHL by the time the year's over. Like, I just, based on his age and based on like just what I saw at the NHL and AHL level, like I don't see it. I don't see it. I think he got really lucky in his first run, and the team like signed him a contract based on those 3 games. He had the final few games at the very end of the season when other teams were coasting because they were already secure in their playoffs. They had no reason to compete, and he looked fine. But next year's going to be very different when in October the team is like trying to not be as shit as they were to start this season, and they need him to be not Halak. They need him to be like good. Like a good backup. They basically need him to be what Demko was to Jacob Markstrom 2 years ago, which was like an actual reliable backup that could win you games. And I don't know if Spencer Martin has that in him.
I think he might. Again, like it's a matter of.
But you say that about every goaltender. You're like,
have I been wrong on one yet?
Like, if I stepped in between the pipes, you'd be like, this Cody kid. He's worked his way up there. I think he could do it. I've got his jersey on my wall already.
I've seen you skate.
Have you seen me skate in goalie skates?
No, which to be fair, you might be a little better in, but like,
and I don't have to glide. I can just stand still.
You literally would just be I'm shuffling across really carefully.
I'd probably blow up both my quads trying to go into a butterfly squat, like, or even just stretching between the.
Yeah, you'd be doing the warm. You'd be taking the warm up, and you'd pull a hamstring somehow.
Yeah, no, like walking up to like the rink to step on.
Yeah,
I would like do the splits and
getting
like,
your gear out of the car.
Yeah,
you're right back, getting your gear.
Throw
out
out my back,
like,
throw out my shoulder. Yeah, just like all the old man shit that just ruins my body.
And I think Martin could, if he gets the time to actually work on his gait, like his footwork, because that's what's causing him the most issues. He knows where to be at the right time. He's clearly just a little bit too slow, like just reacting in time. If he can figure that out, I think he could be serviceable at least. I don't think he's gonna. Again, I'll be clear. Like, to be clear, I don't think he's gonna be as good as he was during those 2 stretches he had there. I think he could, but I think he could be okay. And hey, look, I'll say this: like, in the 2 games that Spencer Martin played against the Oilers, he's done better than Markstrom has in his games against Edmonton. So hey,
so what you're saying is they should have signed Spencer Martin to a $6 million contract.
Spencer Markstrom is that's good. Should have been.
Joking that the Oilers should have signed. Should have traded for Spencer Martin.
They should have traded for Halak. They should have traded for anybody. Like, good lord. I mean, Smith's doing fine, but like, aside from the blowing his own shutout by diving, like, he's doing okay. So we should talk about that too, because you said so. The Lucic hit, that was one. Like, so.
I said it was pretty greasy, but like I acknowledge that Milan Lucic hit him because he can't skate anymore. So there was no way he was avoiding that collision. Like, it was just like I can't turn. He was skating like me. Yeah, like once like momentum got me going, it's just like, well, we'll see what happens.
Because you see him fully try to stop. Like, you can see the legs. Like, you can see him going into full hockey stop, not getting enough time, not having enough time to do it to get the proper edge and leaning in because he's out of runway. And then, but like, you think he didn't do enough there?
But yeah, like it's like trying to stop a bowling ball. Like, he's just gonna keep going. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
And 2 old men running into each other.
Fortunately, it was 2 old men, because I think if like a younger person hit Mike Smith, like he would have literally like just exploded. Yeah. Like he'd like blow up into like a cloud of dust.
Didn't Edler also accidentally hit him?
Yeah, but because they're both elderly men, nothing happens. It's just like it's like 2 immovable objects colliding, like nothing happens. But when like a younger, more spry body hits an elderly man, it's like a cataclysmic explosion.
Just every hip dislocated.
He would just absolutely combust.
I mean, he kind of did in that Lucic play, but that was his own fault, like, where he just like into there. So yeah, because like, again, Mike Smith, notorious diver, like he you can clearly see
you won't swear, but you'll call players divers.
Because it's so blatant. It's so blatant. Him and Ben Bishop as well. Ben Bishop did this all the time too.
Where he's made of glass, though. So.
Yeah, he had to, because he would literally die if he was hit
if he got subtly injured. I don't think it would have like gotten play stopped. He needed to make the.
Yeah, and there was the thing where like Smith literally got his team a power play during the playoff by like getting like literally the lightest tap and just diving like he had been shot in the face. Like, it was like and then everyone's like, wow, you can't hit a goalie like that on the Lucic play. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, you can't. That he literally threw himself backwards into the boards, and then you see him after with the ref, right? Because the concussion spotters obviously want him in the tunnel, and this man with his shutout. Suddenly he's like, "Oh, I'm totally fine. Oh, interesting. You looked like you had just been hit by a truck.
I thought he died.
That's so weird. Like, and it was such karma seeing him have to leave and lose his shutout simply because he literally threw himself into the boards like that. Oh, it's so dumb. It was a very dumb play. At the end of the day, it was just dumb on all accounts.
At the end of the day, it's just like a funny play between 2 elderly men colliding, and it's good for content at the very least.
It is good for content.
We got good memes.
Do you think Calgary comes back at all here, or are they cooked?
I think they're gonna lose tonight. To be honest,
They might win at home.
I think they're gonna lose tonight, and then they're gonna win the next game, and then probably lose again after. I just don't. They look bad.
They
frankly.
look really bad,
which is shocking because I really don't think Edmonton is good, and that game 1 is case in point. Like they're just
Cody Cece playing on the top pairing. I'm pretty
yeah, like come on.
Are you joking?
Yeah. That's the Edmonton Oilers in a nutshell. Like it's like it again. Literally, both these teams. It's like they had to go to 7 games to defeat like some teams that clearly were in over their heads a little bit. And you're just like, God, this is the best this division has. Like really, Cody Cece on one side, Erica Branson on the other. Like, oh my God, it's literally it's like 2 players look good in the whole series, and they just both happen to be on Edmonton, including one who apparently like Leon Draisaitl's playing with a bad ankle.
Yeah,
apparently, yeah, like and still just kicking butt with it. Like,
yeah, he hasn't been skating like as fast as he usually does, and he's not a fast skater anyways. But he usually just like makes plays now. He's not like going full force because his ankle's messed.
Yeah.
Speaking of elderly man, his ankles are like mine right now, just hanging on by a thread.
Hanging like one faithful walk with the dog. Yeah.
Once your age starts with a 3, your body just like gives up. It's just like, nope, you made it this far.
Are you ready, Lachlan, for that?
I've got 5 years. 5 years. I got 5 years. You know, I got time. So I haven't hit my peak NHL age yet, which is 27.
So on the weekend, the missus and I hung out with David Quadrelli at around Rocky Point. Got some ice cream, got some Slurpees. You know, young people stuff.
Child.
You know, just taking the kids out for the play date, right?
Yeah.
And
I can just imagine Quads and Murphy just running around. And
they would.
We put them in their playpen, and they had a gas together. It was great. But afterwards, like the day after, Roxy and I were hanging out, and we're just like, man, I can't remember. We were talking because naturally we're elderly, so we talk about like how old we are, right? Mm-hmm. And we were like, man, I think like, do you wonder if like Quads is like, man, these guys are really old and like weird, and we're like,
why am I hanging out with them?
Yeah, like we were like, do you think he gets annoyed when we like point out how young they are? And then we were like, you know what? I actually wish we hung out with some older people when we were in our early 20s, so they could tell us to cherish our youth, because no one did. And then suddenly you wake up and there's a pandemic, and you're 32 and you have a dog that barks and pees and poos everywhere. So yeah, for you 2 youngins of this podcast, just cherish your youth. I know the pandemic is just blowing it, but hey, you know, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. And if you can cherish your soft skin and your bones that work and your muscles that don't just like tense up and rip in half when you're moving a carton of milk, or throwing out your back when you move a cardboard box from one piece of the table to the other, which actually happened to me once, and it was man, like that's probably where.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
that's probably when my life started falling apart.
Do you need help?
I do.
Like if you need help moving stuff, you could call either of us.
Yeah,
you know there are.
We'll both say we're busy, but
yeah.
But it's the thought that counts.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like, oh shoot, I'm actually busy every day that you need me. Darn.
I have a thing.
I have many things that I have to do.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into some other NHL stuff before we sign out, because I know we all want to go eat and watch this banger of an Alberta Edmonton series. So I was really, really tuned when I saw the news that you sent us in the DM, Lachlan, about Brian Rust signing that contract with the Penguins. 6 years, $5.2 million. Holy F. That is a
get that
horrific bag. I mean, first off,
Brian Rust. Yeah.
Congrats on making that cheddar, sir. But like we had just heard like like a week ago, like 6 days ago, maybe, that Sid Crosby was upset at the lowball offers that Malkin and Letang got at 5 years and $5 million or whatever. Like, you're lowballing those two, but you'll sign Brian Rust to a $5.2 million contract until he's 36 years old. Like, do you have any understanding of aging curves or where your team is at? Why the fuck are you signing that deal? I could not believe that. I was laughing so hard. I was so tuned. It's just like, this is the deal that I was so happy to see was signed by the Brian Burke and Ron Hextall Penguins, because I have no idea what they're doing now.
If I were Malkin and Letang, I would be absolutely appalled. I would be so offended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see.
Clearly the Penguins want with Malkin and Letang what the Sharks got from Joe Thornton for years, where it's the whole thing. So for anyone who doesn't know, and I forget if you and I talked about this on the last show, but essentially the Sharks would literally, because Joe Thornton essentially gave them a guarantee year after year that he was going to come back regardless, and he would literally let them go and make all their big signings and everything. And then give him essentially whatever's left on a 1-year deal so that they could have as good a team around him as possible. But the Penguins seem to kind of want the same thing here. But the key difference is that Joe Thornton had no Stanley Cup at that point, whereas Malkin and Letang have already won 3. They don't have any other, they don't need to be here if they don't want to. They could very easily go right off into the sunset elsewhere. With the Rust contract, it's pretty clear that Pittsburgh doesn't see themselves in a situation where it's time to rebuild at all. And that's not too crazy in the sense of because I think Brian Burke at one point before he was fired by Pittsburgh, or right after on Sportsnet, was doing an interview essentially talking about how as long as he has Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, they're never rebuilding kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They're never doing a full rebuild, which that sounds about right. You have one of the best teams in the world, but at the same time, you still kind of need to find youth to sit around them with. Like the Penguins that won all those cups didn't win because they were just signing all the old guys and giving out hefty extensions to depth players.
They won because they exploited the cap space they had and the players they had to find better, cheaper options wherever they could.
And sold high.
Damn.
Picking up Nick Bonino for Brandon Sutter and a bunch of other garbage.
I love Bonino. That's actually I love Nick Bonino.
What a call,
man.
1
year as a Canuck, as a Canuck. I was so sad when they got rid of him. That was
So on the note of Bonino, can I just quickly shout out on the podcast Harnarayan Singh?
Yes,
because I have loved his commentary for the Battle of Alberta and whatever games he's doing. Mm-hmm. That dude can call a game. And I don't know how I see this shit, because it just pops up on you follow hockey, here's some suggested tweets, and it's always some absolute chimp idiot with the dumbest opinion being Harnarayan Singh sucks, he can't call games. It's you are wrong.
Yeah, no,
sir, or madam. Yeah, he rocks. I just wanted to shout him out.
I will say I thought during the Oilers Kings series it did sound a little bit Oilers heavy, which was odd, but overall it was fine. But
I understood it because no one likes the Oilers.
Yeah, it's true.
The Kings are cool.
Yeah, and Rick Ball obviously was already doing it for Calgary at that point. Rick Ball also calls a very good game. I would like to hear him more on the broadcasts. Also, if we're just shouting out play-by-play guys at this point, why isn't John Shorthouse calling any playoff games? That's
he's on vacation.
But he's so good. He's so good.
I know, he's great.
He deserves
when
more.
When I saw Murph covering the Avs games, I was like, "Oh my god, it's Murph! Look at him!"
It's exactly. We stand Dan. It's and it's so I do find it strange that they don't set that I don't think they have anybody on the regularly on all 4 broadcasts. So I'm send Shorty to one of them. Like, there's some good
Yeah.
series out there. Like, there's some good playoff hockey. He's so good. But yeah, like Hunter Ryan Singh's done a great job for Battle of Alberta. I think also Chris Cuthbert's been calling, I think, a few of them as well.
I think so. Okay. Other contracts signed. Toronto Maple Leafs signed Giordano to a 2-year, $800K AAV. Unsurprising, they're doing the Tampa thing, right? Trying to get some vet with experience to sign for league minimum, so that you can then make up for it elsewhere. And I believe the story that came out was that Giordano had one contract on the board for like slightly under $1 million, but then he came back to say, "I'll take less if it helps the team, find a better deal elsewhere." So pretty cool, even though I don't really care for Mark Giordano. I think he's a cheap fucking player, but good for them.
Yeah, Toronto needs veterans, and it's better that they're doing this rather than what they were doing before, where they were giving way too much money to Patrick Marleau, and a couple of those older veterans. They're in a bit of a bind, cap wise right now because of how many of those big contracts they signed. They're in a bit of a weird stuck spot here. So they need every cheap contract they can get. I did hear today, I think they dismissed some of people in their in their analytics department, including Canucks Army alumni people.
Former Canucks Army writer, a colleague of ours, an alumnus, Cam Sharon, who'd been there for quite some time.
Long time.
Pour one out, Ripperoonie. But I'm sure someone who was a part of that analytics department for as long as he was, I'm sure is going to land somewhere else in this league very soon. I would be shocked if he went without a position. Like, just those old Canucks Army guys who, basically built the foundation of like what a local journalism can do in terms of analysis, like what they can actually do when they're on a team.
Yeah, and how far they've fallen by hiring us.
What
a drop! It's been a steep drop in quality.
It's quite the fall off when you go from Cam Sharon, and Cam Lawrence, Josh Weisbach to the Lachlan Urbans and the Cody Sievertsons of the world. But
they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel at this.
Hey,
what do we got left? God,
yeah. It's you're going from like a bunch of like stats nerds who know how to code to literally some guy, according to David Quadrelli, to some guy who doesn't even do this full time. Noted some guy, Cody Sievertson, basically on the same tier as former director of analytics or whatever the fuck job he had. Pretty wild. Okay, what's this? I'm looking at the notes instead of reviewing ahead of time because I'm just that professional. Chatter of John Tortorella and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yes, which is Philly to a T.
That's fine by me because Tortorella should always be a part of press conferences as a coach. I don't really care for him on the broadcast because I think for every good opinion he has, he'll have one that's like really bad and makes you have to like question whether or not you like him as an analyst. So
it would be so peak Philadelphia Flyers for them to go and hire John Tortorella and be like, this is what we need right now. It's a little bit, especially, and also just the pure irony of them going from having Alain Vigneault start last season to potential of John Tortorella starting this one.
And then Willie D will come in.
And Willie Desjardins. Like, if it wasn't for Mike
Travis Green's gonna...
Oh my God.
my God.
Wait. Hold up.
All three of them.
John Tortorella with Travis Green and Willie D as assistant coaches. Oh my goodness.
That would be a fascinating exercise.
I don't know how that would go.
I don't know how. I kind of know how that would go. Like Willie Desjardins would suggest things, and Travis Green and John Tortorella would just straight up ignore him.
Yeah, it's like Willie, why don't you?
No.
Yeah. They like he'd get one word in, they'd be like, "No, quiet."
Go play somewhere else.
Yeah,
Willie.
straight up.
Go
Like
away.
the adults are talking. Willie.
Poor Willie.
Not that Willie is necessarily like a huge drop off from those two, but like definitely enough of one that it's like, oh,
the guy who rolled his lines and didn't know which lines were coming up next in the rotation, just whoever was sitting in front of him. That guy is not an NHL coach.
You know who Sean Couturier needs to be playing with more? Jason Megna. Like that's who Sean Couturier should be taking a regular shift with.
Really?
Or Michael Chaput.
Ooh. The league could use some more Chaput in its life.
Yeah.
All right.
Much Chaput about nothing. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that came out of my mouth, guys.
Should I even get into the Canucks news, or should we just end right there off of that?
We should probably get into the fact that there was some changes on the.
There was more changes, more firings. Well, not really, but
it's weird that we're getting into the Canucks stuff right at the very end. But yes,
that's because I had to talk about Edmonton, Alberta, like the chimp I am. But yeah, for those keeping track, the Canucks basically let go every single assistant coach that they had on the books except for Jason King. Scott Walker chose to leave. It was his choice. The team kind of knew he wasn't going to stick around because he's got commitments with the Guelph Storm of the OHL. Like he's like the owner or part owner or something like that. So he didn't exactly want to stick in Vancouver. Like he's just got too much going on out east, especially with his family. And I think Boudreau said on the Bandcast, like he kind of knew he was on like a short term thing with the Canucks, so it wasn't really surprising. Sucks to see him go. His words, not mine, but he understood it and kind of knew it was coming anyway. But they also got rid of Daryl Seward as their video coach. I think who else was it? Kyle Gustafsson or something like that.
Yeah, Kyle Gustafsson is gone, and that's I think those three. I think all those are the guys they got rid of.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing was that this news only kind of dropped because Bruce Boudreau did like a podcast where he basically said that all these guys weren't coming back. So it forced it forced the Canucks into releasing a press release at like 5 o'clock on a Friday night or whatever, or Sunday night or something like that.
Bruce,
like,
buddy, like,
well, Bruce has done it a few times.
He's just saying stuff. Man. He's just saying it.
He's doing cameos. He's doing every podcast imaginable for every like ex-NHLer or analyst. Like he's making the rounds since the season ended. Like
he's like Kevin Weeks, but just for the Canucks and what they're
doing. A little bit. Like the joke that Farhan made on the Vancast was like, we've seen you're pretty busy in the offseason on all these podcasts that we feel bad that you're just now getting on an actual Vancouver-based one. And he was just like, yeah, I'm staying busy. And then he went on like a 5-minute rant about like how he had to go back home and, clarify with his 90-year-old mother that it was okay for him to stay in Vancouver for next year. It's really cute. It's a really good interview because like Boudreau's a very talkative man and he gives some pretty good answers on very basic stuff.
Yeah, he's a much like he's not afraid to like give you kind of like a little bit of how the sausage is made a little bit with what goes on behind the team and stuff like that. And sometimes that's too far to like things like this where he's like essentially announcing. Yeah. And like there was like again like the whole thing of like where he's clearly not on the same page with like the GM or at least hasn't discussed talking points yet.
Yeah.
So all they have left now is Boudreau, King, Bradshaw is still here. And I think that was a big deal, especially because once he started running the PK, I think it got a little better under him or the power play. I forget exactly which one is the major one there. And then of course, Ian Clark, who is the best coach who's the best coach, like always.
He's all right. Well, they can't really get rid of him like 6 months after signing him to a 5-year extension. It's a pretty bad look.
And after literally every single goaltender in the organization has gone to bat for him, you can't do that. You can't do that to Ian. Ian Clark's too important to your organization right now. And then hey, look at Artur Silov's coming off today. He finished with a 958 at the World Hockey Championships.
What a
Something
guy!
Like that, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
What a guy!
Yeah, good for him. He
what a guy with a name.
He deserved it. He deserved
it. That's just a guy with a name. Good for him.
How dare you?
Him.
How dare you? He's done great. I think I'm interested to see how they fill those positions though, because obviously you're not going into the season with one head
maybe
coach
more
and just 2
diversity.
assistants.
Maybe we start seeing some more of that. We start seeing
Bruce
like maybe a
came in
female.
and he just sweeped it.
Yeah,
Gone.
maybe. I'm trying to think who, like, if there's a coaching. The thing with the assistant coaches in particular is it's not like there's an obvious line of candidates for assistant coaching jobs at the NHL level. Like, no
Maybe
one's ever.
Travis Green.
That would be very funny if they like
bring him back. Like they sheepishly be like, maybe we shouldn't have fired you because the team was actually pretty good at 5v5, and maybe it was the idiot GM that we should have fired instead.
Well, like or something like, well, who is there's already people talking, including us, talking about the idea of like, hey, maybe Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin will bring back Troy Stetcher because to fix the right side, which would be fantastic. There is kind of a slight chance here because it's a different regime. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. It's not their mistake that they're admitting was incorrect. Like,
what do you mean, Cody? Why not?
They don't view it as a mistake. That's the issue.
Well, the old regime didn't, but this one
might. I'll tell you after the show, but like, yeah, I'll tell you after the show. But anyway.
Okay, fair enough. But like, yeah, like
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be.
Why do you have to crush me like this?
I'm sorry. It's not my fault. You know, blame the team.
Blame the team. I would love to know like who they have on their radar here in terms of like for assistant coaches. It would be cool to see them bring up some people who deserve the opportunity, and especially if like could go on to become great NHL coaches in their own right.
Well, I was thinking today, like it would make a lot of sense actually if they just promoted whoever they have at the AHL level to NHL assistant coaches and then wait out the year where they can do a full reset with who they want in the NHL. And then the AHL, whoever, like if Trent calls their guy, they keep him, but then they hire the assistant coaches they think can like replace him the following year because his deal is also into next season as well. Because that seems like the normal thing to do is that you groom talent from within, and so it would make sense to have an AHL complement of staff that you believe can actually do something for your organization down the road, or at least develop players for you and are content staying at that level for the foreseeable future. Kind of like Benoit Gruel in Syracuse for Tampa.
Yeah,
he's been their head coach for like 7 years, and there's no indication that he's moving up or that he really wants to move up either.
Yeah, and then there's like, and like the Leafs had the same thing with like Sheldon Keefe, where he was like the Marlies coach for years, and then now he's the full-time head coach. And that even goes back to like when Kyle Dubas was running like the Sioux Greyhounds, I think as well. Like it's a little different here, but like there are like hopefully you're finding guys who who want to come in and like be part and find and build into bigger roles and who don't mind, that's going to be easier with obviously with the Abbotsford Canucks now than it would have been in say Utica where they're far away. Like now you can, Trent Cole would be an interesting assistant coach. I wonder what exactly because usually the assistant coaches, like they divide it up on like what expertise, like essentially like to an expertise sort of thing. I'd be interested to see like if Bruce Boudreau had Trent Cole working under him, like what specific like role he would designate him for.
Well, if anything, he would probably stay as the AHL head coach, because I think when he was an assistant coach for Syracuse, he was their defensive coach, and there's just no way he'd replace Brad Shaw. So he wouldn't have a spot on the NHL bench at this point. So yeah, I don't think it would work that way. But like I put it to you guys in the chat, guy whose contract expires at the end of next season is Mike Sullivan. And so based on all of the people leaving the Penguins organization and some of the people that they've acquired since starting to run the Canucks organization, I would not be shocked if Mike Sullivan was on the top of their list as a guy they want to sign without having to fire a coach and pay for someone mid-season. The Boudreau contract helps them avoid that to a T. They don't like how poor the systems are, the breakouts or the defensive structure, whatever, under Boudreau is. But the fact that Boudreau wanted to come back and it's just a 1-year deal and he wants to be a lame duck coach and is fine with it, that's probably great for them because then that means they can go out headhunting at the end of next season when they want their prized pony.
Yeah, and maybe that ends up just being Boudreaux as is. Like maybe he does like he finds a completely different even another gear with this year, and maybe that ends up going in his favor. But like as if you can have that opportunity, yeah, you should take it every single time to go, well, we can do a full reset here. We can build from a completely different point of view if we want to, or we can just, or we feel what's here is already working. So yeah, I mean, and hey, like Mike Sullivan, it'd be again very funny if guy who literally has already been technically head coach of the Canucks before, when John Tortorella was suspended for entering the Flames locker room for 2 weeks. It would be very funny if Mike Sullivan came back to the Canucks again and became their head coach. And honestly, I like him as a coach. He's done a lot with some Penguins teams that haven't necessarily been, I think, as good as they their lineup indicates. Like they've punched above their weight a few times here, especially recently.
Well, like the Canucks former coach Travis Green, Mike Sullivan has gotten a lot out of very little and to satisfying results, including back-to-back cups. So if the Canucks could get that, I think they'd be happy. But otherwise, folks, this has been another episode of yours truly's, the CreaseCast. I have been Cody Sievertson. I will always be Cody Sievertson, so we're clear here. You can follow my work at Cody Sievertson on Twitter and CanucksArmy.com. In theory, I should be writing something soon, but I'm very lazy, and I'll get to it when I get to it. Jamie, where can the fine folks find your work?
You can find me on Twitter at _Jamie K. Lowe, or you can see things that I eat sometimes. I haven't posted in a while, but
yeah, let's get some new stuff because that you got some fucking good looking food on there.
Thank you.
Let me tell you.
I got some hot sauce you can try here if you want.
I'm good.
Do not do that.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, you can see all that stuff on Instagram at Jamie K. Lowe Eats. Lachlan?
And you can find me on Twitter at Lock in the Crease. You can find my writing work also at Canucks Army. I write there pretty frequently. I recently wrote about Bruce Boudreau and Patrick Alvin and Jim Rutherford and what they've been talking about lately in the public sphere. And I'll be doing probably a lot more writing over the rest of the month. So yeah, go check that out. I write there every now and then. I'm also lazy like Cody.
Attaboy.
Shout out quads. Love you, buddy.
Yeah. Until next time, folks, we'll catch you when the Colorado Avalanche are defeated in Game 7 to the St. Louis Blues.
Cody.
Till then, folks. Bye.
Oh no.